that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Higgins.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Like the family unit, music is central to the human experience. It has a capacity to convey emotion and bring individuals together, whether for entertainment or for ritual. As a paediatrician, I also know and understand the important role music plays in the cognitive development of children, including language and literacy abilities, spatial reasoning and fine motor coordination. Mr Deputy Speaker, the passing of Don Burrows earlier this year marked the end of an era for Australian music. Australian jazz fans will forever be grateful for his remarkable cultural legacy. Don was born on August 8, 1928 in Burrows, Sydney, to musical parents. He first picked up the flute in 1937. 3 of my 4 children play the flute, so I know how much he must have loved it, after meeting flautist Victor McMahon. In the early 1940s, he also picked up the clarinet and studied at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music. My colleague and good friend, the member for Moncrieff, who is also a world-class saxophonist, has reliably informed me Don played more than 24 woodwind instruments. He would go on to release 40 albums. By 1942, Don was fast becoming a key figure in Sydney jazz circles and performed in dance halls, nightclubs and on radio, including the Youth Show on Macquarie Radio. In the 60s and 70s, Don's talent took him all over the world. In 1973, Don put Australia jazz on the map when he became the first Australian jazz musician to win a gold record for his record, Just the Beginning. Many will remember him for his later work on the Don Burrows collection, which ran for 6 years during the 1980s. I certainly do. Don collaborated with many artists over the years, including some household names such as Frank Sinatra, the great Nat King Cole and Tony Bennett. He also had a notable partnership with James Morrison, who recently said that Don touched so many lives and inspired generations of musicians and audiences alike. Don was also an accomplished photographer and received honours from the Australian Institute of Professional Photography in 2008. This passion complemented his travels as a musician. Mr Deputy Speaker, Don was also passionate about education. He spearheaded the establishment of the jazz course at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music and was chair of jazz studies. A pretty cool job, if you ask me. He also used his passion for photography to support those making a career in music. For many years, he travelled to regional and remote locations to perform and photograph the sights and people along the way. Some of his favourite photos were taken of Indigenous children. These images were never included for sale. However, an idea was put to the Department of Indigenous Affairs in Canberra that he sold some of these images and put the proceeds towards a fund to support any Indigenous person seeking assistance for a career in music. That's what happened. Mr Deputy Speaker, Don understood the power of investment in the arts and in particular music. The Morrison government also understands the importance of investing in Australia's arts sector. We recognise the valuable contribution it makes to our community, but also to our economy, and indeed to our national identity. Earlier this year, I championed the need for an inquiry into the impact of COVID on the arts and how we as a government must ensure that our cultural identity not only thrives, but prospers. An inquiry has been announced in August this year, and the Standing Committee will now undertake this inquiry into Australia's creative and cultural industries and institutions, including, but not limited to, Indigenous, regional, rural and community-based organisations. This is important to build upon the important contributions of those who've gone before us, such as Don. Mr Deputy Speaker, Australia will forever be indebted to Don for the cultural legacy he leaves behind, a true national treasure. Jazz biographer Bruce Johnson said of Don that his importance to Australian jazz extends beyond his musicianship. He's been central to the acceptance of jazz as a musical form, to be treated with the same seriousness and accord of other performing arts. I'd like to mention that my uncle, Mark Stevens, aka Lazy Harry, himself is a country musician, and I've watched his career over the many decades and know how difficult it can be to make it in the music scene. So we thank Don Burrows for the work that he's done He's made Australia a little bit more worldly, a little bit more sophisticated. Rest in peace, Don. Thank you.